Members of the UN Security Council adopted a statement of the same content. All 5 leaders signed a statement stating the inadmissibility of nuclear war. This is our principled position. We proceed from it. Now the risks are very significant. I would not like them to be artificially inflated. There are many who are willing to do so. The danger is serious, it's real. It should not be underestimated. We firmly know that neither the US nor the UK, which is trying in every way possible to compensate for its current isolated status after leaving the European Union with irrepressible activity, are advising Vladimir Zelensky not to accelerate negotiations, but to toughen his stance every time. Zelensky was asked at a press conference how he views our proposals. He said he didn't receive anything and didn't see anything. We asked the Ukrainian negotiators if they had reported on the updates to the president. They said Zelensky had no time. This shows how the president of Ukraine himself treats the negotiations, snobbishly declaring that he prefers peace. In addition to tanks and armored personnel carriers, thousands of portable anti-aircraft missile systems, weapons used by terrorists, are being supplied. Previous experience shows that these weapons will leave Ukraine, as they would from any other poorly controlled country, especially one where the neo-Nazi battalions, Azov, Aider, and other units do not obey the Supreme Commander-in-Chief, and are proud of this, and occupy a special, autonomous, untouchable place in the armed forces. These weapons will scatter, including back to the countries from where they came to Ukraine. These countries also groups of people, especially given the waves of migration, who would like to get their hands on such an opportunity. The US military doesn't know where it's all going to end up. Maybe they know about some things, but others they don't. What will the Russian Federation do? When the Turks sold Bayraktar drones to Ukraine a long time ago, they were used for many years to conduct reconnaissance in the Donbass, to assist in bombing this region with the artillery of the armed forces of Ukraine in gross violation of the Minsk agreements. The agreements were publicly buried by Zelensky. He refused to comply with them, as well as the decision of the Normandy summit in Paris in December 2019. Although there was nothing there about Lugansk, Donetsk, or Russia. He had to adopt a law on the special status of Donbass. That was all he had to do. He had to it. It didn't depend on anyone else there. He signed up for it. Then for 3 years he lamented that Russia was not fulfilling the Minsk agreements. This was a comedy, an imitation of negotiations on the implementation of agreed measures. Now it's an imitation of negotiations on concluding agreements with the Russian Federation. So is the imitation of democracy. The cancellation of democracy, culture and the dictatorship of radicals. These weapons will be a legitimate target for the Russian armed forces, operating within the framework of the special operation. Warehouses, including those in the west of Ukraine, have been designated as such targets more than once. What else do you expect? NATO is essentially entering a war with Russia by proxy and arming this proxy. There's a war on. Everyone keeps repeating that under no circumstances should a third world war be allowed. It's namely in this context that we should view the constant provocations of the president of Ukraine Vladimir Zelensky and his team. They're practically demanding the deployment of NATO troops to protect the Ukrainian government. But everyone always says that they will give Kiev weapons. This also adds fuel to the fire. They want to force Ukrainians to fight Russia to the last soldier with these arms supplies, as long as this conflict drags on longer, so that Russia, as they hope, suffers more and more. By supplying weapons and increasing their efforts in this direction, all leaders, except Poland, declare that the question of sending NATO troops has been ruled out. Warsaw, judging by what Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki is saying, has proposed a kind of peacekeeping operation in Ukraine, clearly showing interest in sending its servicemen there under a peacekeeping flag. We can only imagine how the historical reminiscence of Poles who would find themselves on their former territory, in the west of Ukraine, will manifest itself. Now the Americans and other Western countries are trying to devalue the right of veto. They want to transfer the prerogative of the Security Council to the UN General Assembly. There, by using arm twisting, blackmail, even threats that concern the bank accounts of delegations, their children's places of education, they can get